All right, we got everyone on, ready to go? We're going to have an exciting night talking about horse health. I love this topic. It's one of my absolute favorite topics, horse health all night long. It's amazing. And let me talk a little bit about me real quick. I am Dr. Erica Latcher. First and foremost, I'm a horse owner. I got into this because of horses. I was the horse crazy kid playing with my Breyer horses in the living room, and here we are. Now I'm Dr. Latcher. I own a few too many horses because I live on 20 acres and it gives me the opportunity to collect. But my primary horse is the only one I have to show. And just like you guys, I can't replace her. She's all I've got as far as a show horse. And if something goes wrong with her, I'm out of show horse just like everyone else. I'm out of riding horse, to be honest, because the rest of them are retired. So I take my knowledge that I have and try to turn it into making her world the very best it can be. And much like you guys, all I want for my horse is that she has everything she wants and needs in the world. As a veterinarian, I'm a general practitioner all day, every day. I work on horses from backyard to Olympic shortlist prospects. So you name it, I see it. I spend the majority of my day in sport horse medicine, but along the way, I do everything from breeding to geriatric care. So again, I've seen everything a horse can do. Let's talk about the issues that those horses have. And it's, lamenesses, colics, illnesses, which sometimes we can explain and sometimes we can't. I've been there with the owners trying to understand why their horse has laminitis and what we could have done to prevent it and what we can do in the future. I've been there with the owner who had the navicular horse and now they have a new horse and we're trying to figure out, what do we do best for this horse so we don't run into that same thing. Totally understand all of it. And how do we as owners respond? We panic Google in the middle of the night. I appreciate when you don't text me at 2 in the morning, but I have gotten those as well, and that's okay. I understand it. We go to the internet and we search out information on everything. Let's ask, who has Googled equine herpes myeloencephalitis today, given the outbreak that's going on in the barrel horse world? And you have probably seen some good information and some bad information. But tonight, we're going to try to steer you in the direction of the right information. And one of the ways we're going to do that is we're going to talk about the 5 most costly mistakes that horse owners make that I see and how they can fix it. So let's go through a little bit of what we're going to do. So we're going to talk about why horse health knowledge is your secret advantage. You know more about your horse than anyone else. If you listen to Sinead, I still call her Halpin, but Sinead Maynard's podcast, then you heard Warwick Schiller. And he talks about you are the best person to train your horse. And I feel that way as you, as your horse's health advocate as well. You are with your horse more than anyone else. You know your horse, you understand your horse. I never, ever, ever discount an owner coming to me and saying, it's 10 a.m. My horse is laying down on the pasture, and that's not normal. I am 1000% going to take that information as a veterinarian and come talk to you about your horse. I'm probably going to come see it actually. But that knowledge that you bring to the table is something that I, as your veterinarian, can't replace. So value it. We're going to talk about the 5 most costly horse care mistakes and what to do about it. We're going to work on a 3-step decision framework that will help you look at what's going on, what should I do, and what are my next steps after I do that. We're also going to look inside Horse Health Essentials. I'm so excited about this program, you guys. It is a course I created for riders just like you, and we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to give you a chance to ask some questions in your very own Q&A. Everybody ready? Are we ready? You're going to want to stay to the very end because if you stay to the end, you're going to get access to the quick reference triage guide. This is a guide we made, and we made it with the tack room in mind. You can post it on the wall in the tack room, and it's going to go through some of the most common things we see. And if that is, call the veterinarian right away. Maybe hide and watch a little bit. That was a Texas term we had when I was out there, that you sort of sit back, watch the horse for a while, give it 15, 20 minutes, see what happens, or I'm going to call the vet in the morning and we're going to see how things are going. That's the quick reference triage guide, and you get that at the end of everything. So stay to the end. So let's talk about Horse Health Essentials a little bit and why I was so excited to build it when Jessa and Mackenzie came to me. They wanted to know what I see as issues. And one of the biggest things I see is that horse owners aren't always sure what to look for. Like, was that a symptom that my horse was trying to present to me and I didn't recognize it? And then when they see that, they get a little bit overwhelmed by the information out there. There are so many Facebook groups for horses. I'm as guilty as anyone about being on a bajillion of them. So I absolutely get it. But how do you know what of that information is great? And how do you properly sift through all of it that comes at you? And I'll tell you a moment that this really struck home for me. And that was looking at a colic maybe 20 years ago. That makes me, having done this for a long time, makes me feel a little old. But, anyways, maybe 20 years ago, I came to a farm with a college student. I'm in a college town, so we see a lot of college students. And this was her horse she had brought from home with her to college, and he was definitely her emotional support horse for sure. He had been acting a little off for about 24 hours, but nothing horrible. And she had gone with the advice of the farm manager that, he's probably just, one of those horse days. And by the time I got out there, I was looking at a horse that was in pretty dire straits. As I was doing my exam, his heart rate was a little bit elevated. Some of the parameters I had weren't great. When I put my ultrasound on, I could see that there was a little bit of extra fluid in the abdomen, and that's never a good sign. When I reached in to do my palpation, which everyone thinks is the worst part, it's actually not the worst part of my job. But anyway, when I reached in to do my palpation, I found that this horse had a giant impaction. And I could have managed that relatively easily the day before with sort of my usual colic therapy. But now I was looking at a horse that we were going to have to spend a lot of money on. We were going to have to bring it into the hospital, put it on IV fluids, hope that that cleared the impaction, and if it didn't, we were potentially looking at surgery. And as a college student, that wasn't something she could do. And in that moment, I realized that I had always thought education was really important, but I needed to get better at it and I needed to double down. And so I've spent the last 20 years working on that through programs like Health Essentials and this evening, also through a podcast called Straight from the Horse Doctor's Mouth. So we try so hard to help you guys find the very best in information. So we're going to start with a few yes no questions. Do you ever feel unsure if something your horse is doing is urgent or if it can wait? That's probably a yes for everyone because I don't know any horse owner. I feel that way some days. It's why I'm very glad that I have two other veterinarians in the practice that I can go say, my horse did this. And we all do that with our horses. We talk to each other about what's going on. Here's another favorite question for me. Have you ever bought a supplement or gadget and later thought, I'm not sure that did anything? Yeah, we've all been there. And my personal favorite, which I know is happening a lot today based on phone calls from my barrel racing clients. Have you ever panic Googled symptoms only to be told your horse is probably dying? Yeah, that definitely has happened to every single one of us. Let's talk about the horse health edge. And that is that we want to help you catch problems earlier. We want to help you learn what is normal for your horse in with guidelines from a veterinarian who sees this all day every day and can help you establish what's normal in your horse's environment. I really 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 do want to help you avoid big vet bills. We don't like them any more than you guys do, and I promise what we really don't like is emergency calls. If we could get rid of every emergency call ever, we would be very, very happy. I really, really, really would love you to stop falling for propagandas on supplements. If you follow the podcast at all, you know that my number one thing is just walk away from the supplements. It's a really big deal. Let's take that money and spend it on way more fun things like more lessons with Ride IQ because they're amazing. If you haven't done John Holling's lengthening sessions, got to try those. Anyways, so let's find fun things to spend money on for your horse rather than supplements. Let's become your vet's favorite client. And the way you do this is often not the way many of my clients think. The way you do this is by being the very best advocate you can for your horse. Coming to me and saying, look, here are the vital signs for my horse. Here's what I think is going on. Let me give you the information that I have on my horse that I think is not normal. And I will love you for that. I will never, 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 never object to information that you bring me about your horse's healthcare. I want you to stop spiraling every time your horse looks a little off because we're going to give you the information you need to say, is this a little thing, a big thing? Should I be panic Googling? Should I not be panic Googling? Probably not, but at least we're going to give you the way to go there. And you're going to feel super confident and you're not going to be overwhelmed because it's super easy to say, my day job is not being a veterinarian. I have a completely different day job. I'm an accountant. My best friend's an accountant. She looks at her horse and texts me at least once a day what's going on. So that is normal and it's totally okay. And I want you guys to all feel like at the end of looking at the Horse Health Essentials program, you know the direction you need to go. And so you're not overwhelmed because you have a plan for what you need to do. So I'd like you guys to make some decisions with me right now. And that is, I want you to think about, you can put it in chat if you want, but I want you to think about what is a health goal that you have for your horse? And maybe like it can be as simple as you want their coat shinier. My mare is a dark dapple bay. And I would say that it is a definite goal of mine for her to have her dapples as often as possible because I will absolutely spam my Instagram with pictures of her dapples. I'm sure no one else wants to see them, but I love them. So that counts. And it can be as complicated as I want to get them. I want to have a fitness level that allows me to do a prelim event. Like we all have our goals and they are all fantastic. So let's make a health goal. And I want you guys to come up with the day that you're going to say, how have I done? So we made this goal today. In 30 or 60 days, we're going to say, all right, how am I doing? Is my horse dappily? Can I actually consider doing a shoulder in down an entire long side? Is that something I can do? And is it me or is it my horse? That's the problem. I usually go with me. But oh, horse is 685. Your goal is for your horse to lay down and sleep. That is an amazing goal. I'm going to give you a little preview here. We have a section in Horse Health Essentials called herd dynamics. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But you might be thinking, my horse doesn't live in a herd. Even if your horse lives in a stall, that section is so going to help you with getting your horse to lay down and sleep. And that may not sound like much, right? But as a person who owns a horse who doesn't lay down to sleep, you understand what that brings to them. And that's what I mean by take that information and let's bring it to your veterinarian. So, are we ready to start with the 5 mistakes? I'm sure we are. I know you guys are excited. Here we go. Number 1, and I'm not saying this because I'm me, but calling everyone but the veterinarian. I'm going to talk about a lameness I saw recently where the owner called me and she said, my horse is acting a little spooky. Actually, this is going to be a tale of 2 horses that were a little spooky. But the first one, she said, my horse is being a little spooky and I'm not sure what's going on. Can you come look at her eyes? And so we made an appointment and I came out and I looked at her horse's eyes and they were pretty darn normal. And so I went to my next route, which is that I always do a very thorough physical exam. And I have the way that I go through it. And this is something that, yes, I come out as a veterinarian, but you as a horse owner can also run through a similar system. As you're brushing your horse, How do they act on a regular basis? What's normal for them? So as I was going through my system, I found that she was a little bit stiffer when I picked up the right hind than she was the left hind. So we took her out in the driveway and we did some basic flexions on her, and we found that she is in fact lame on her right hind. And through working her up, we realized that she is developing some low level arthritis in her right hind fetlock. We went ahead and treated that fetlock, and her spookiness has massively improved. We also had to deal with some secondary behavioral problems, and we're working on that because now we had a horse who was really worried. But we had an owner who didn't first call in her body worker, her farrier, the feed store. I'm sure I'm missing someone. Oh, put it on a Facebook group and get 75 people to give their opinion. She said, "My horse is not acting right. I'm going to call my veterinarian." And so I was able to save her a ton of money on calming supplements, which weren't going to work in this scenario because it wasn't that her horse was upset, it was that her horse was lame. And we were able to sooner treat the lameness going on so that we have less inflammation in that joint and we're causing less damage long term. So this is a win-win-win scenario. Everybody's happy at the end. So let's talk about the second horse that was acting spooky. And that one was actually an eye problem. And it was a uveitis, which is inflammation in the back of the eye. And it was creating a scenario where that horse was having trouble seeing in bright light. Like, they get really squinty and it's really hard for them. I find most uveitis horses have a lighting situation they don't like. And for this one, it was bright light. We put that horse on a easy medication twice a week and off we've gone. We're back to our happy, healthy horse. But again, in that scenario, if we had gone with the advice of everyone else, then we would have spent a ton of time and money trying to get that horse around. And the other place I see this happen is pre-purchases or lack thereof. I found a horse on the internet. I love it. My trainer says it's great. And your trainer is absolutely a fantastic person to get involved in that. But going with this horse is great. I know this horse, maybe it comes out of my trainer's program. All of these scenarios that we have for buying horses that we think we know, and so we don't get a veterinary exam. I have, without a doubt, had those come back to bite us. And one of the biggest ways is I put my stethoscope on them, and those horses are in what we call atrial fibrillation, which is a heart condition that is very, very, very difficult to treat in horses and prevents them from being high level athletes. So when we're looking at that horse to Brie, like our prelim eventer, that horse is not going to do it, despite the fact that it's been in our trainers program forever. So I always recommend that you get a pre-purchase to just find those things that we as veterinarians are trained to find, low-hanging fruit, and make sure that this purchase is going to be a valuable one. Because remember, there's no such thing as a free horse. And I even recommend pre-purchases on free horses, probably more than I do on expensive horses. But anyway, there we go. All right. Number 2, this one's going to be a shocker for everyone out there. Spending hard-earned money on supplements. Your horse would really like to eat good quality forage and then a concentrate that fills in the gaps from the forage. Now, good quality forage can mean a variety of things, and we talk about that in the nutrition section on Horse Health Essentials, because for many of our horses that have GI upset, we have to manage that forage in a very particular way. And when we have horses that have a combination of GI upset like ulceration and they are easy keepers, it takes it to a whole nother level. So let's talk about some of the supplements that are out there. Vitamin mineral supplement, probably one of the more common ones I see people add. If you are feeding any commercially available concentrate, you've got it. In fact, you probably have the same vitamin mineral package from the same manufacturer in both of those products. And so you're doubling up on your vitamins and minerals. Coat supplements. Like I said, as the owner of what is a Dapple Bay, I get the coat supplement. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. And most of the time, if your horse is getting a good quality forage and they're getting that concentrate, they're getting the things they need for a good quality coat. And adding a coat supplement in a 1 ounce scoop is not adding enough of anything to affect your horse's coat. So, considering the size of your horse and the size of the supplement is a key driver there. Hoof supplements. You absolutely have those in your concentrate that you're feeding. I promise you. That is low hanging fruit that is added to every concentrate out there. We're mostly looking at copper, zinc, methionine, and biotin. So not only are they added to every food out there, but your horse also makes a biotin in their hindgut. They are amazing at making B vitamins, and biotin is a B vitamin. So there you go. Look at all this money I'm saving you guys. Calming supplements. If you have any doubts about the ability of calming supplements to work, talk to the USCF drug testers at any point in time. They go through extensive programs with the calming supplements that are on the market. And if they are show legal, they don't work. I can promise you that, having talked to the drug testers for both USEF and FEI. So don't waste your money on calming supplements. Again, if your horse is getting a good quality forage diet and then you're giving a commercial concentrate on top of that, they're getting all the magnesium they need, I promise you. And they're getting the things they need to have that balanced diet, which allows them to stay calm. Forage also has been shown to help horses stay calm. So giving them lots of hay, easy answer. And you're going to do it anyways. So there you go. Stomach supplements. I'm going to take a deep breath here. Whew. No, just no. I'm not talking about Gastrogard and Sucralfate and Misoprostol and the medications that you get from your veterinarian when you have an endoscopy that shows you that you have stomach ulcers and we are treating those. I'm talking about the preventive products on the market. 99.99% of them do not do a thing. We're going to go back to good quality roughage is the most important thing for those horses and having something in their stomach most of the time. You can get more out of handing your horse a few handfuls of alfalfa just before you ride than you can any of those calming supplements. And there's really great research out there on that. And now I'm going to tell you one you're allowed to use, just, because I want to be that way. Electrolyte supplements. You can definitely add these when your horse is sweating. Just like you or I, they're losing valuable electrolytes when they sweat. They dump tons of sodium and potassium and all that sweat they make. They also dump a lot of protein. That's what makes the lather. When horses lather up, that's a protein. So an electrolyte supplement is 1000% appropriate when your horse is working aggressively. If you are using it during, let's say, the winter, things like that to drive thirst, you can get away with just plain old salt. But the cost difference between electrolyte and salt supplements is generally not a lot. So I will let you guys have your electrolytes anytime you want them. So there you go. I'll let you have one. All right. Number 3 is a large pet peeve of mine. In fact, my office has a saying that Dr. Latcher's motto is "the toe is too long." And that is poor quality farrier work. Everybody loves their farrier. I get it. But some of them don't do as good a job as they should. And it is really hard for us as owners. Heck, it's hard for us as veterinarians to know what a quality job is. Little tip in the horse health essentials that we're going to talk about at the end, we've got a whole hoof section so you can become an expert. But the reason poor quality farrier work is such a big deal for me is that it changes the physics of how your horse is moving with every step they take. Every step. You don't have to be on them. You don't have to even be on the property. If they are walking in their stall and the mechanics of their foot are wrong, the chances are good they're putting pressure on all of the tendons and ligaments running up the back of their leg, and they're putting pressure on their navicular bone. So that adds up more than anything we do in terms of riding, especially us amateurs sometimes. My work definitely gets in the way of my riding. I totally relate to everyone when it comes to that. So having the knowledge to know what a good foot should look like is key for this. And a few quick pointers. When you pick up your horse's foot and you look at it, you should see the widest point of the foot is at the 50% mark. So that means you pick up the foot, You kind of run your fingers down the side and you see, okay, here's the widest part of the foot. Now, 50% of the hoof should be in front and 50% of the foot should be behind. If it's not, then it's time to watch the Horse Health Essentials hoof care section, and then talk with your vet and your farrier about what's best for your horse. And again, as the person who sees your horse's foot more than any of us combined, you are the very best person to look at this. Moving on to number 4. You guys all with me here? Yeah? Number 4, DIY wound care. And this seems like I should be able to do this. No problem. But horses have a unique, I'm going to call it a bug because it's definitely not a feature, that very small wounds that go into what we call synovial structures, which is our fancy term for joints and tendon sheaths. So those are, they run down the back of the leg, front and hind leg. There's also one that runs down the front of the knee and the hock. So those are our synovial structures. Tiny, tiny wounds into those can be life threatening. I had an owner, I still cannot believe he saw this wound. He brought his horse in. The reason I can't believe he saw it, it was a dark bay. Brought his horse in. It had a pinprick wound on the back of the right hind fetlock, like kind of in that pastern area. And that foot was black. So I'm amazed again that he saw it. He had just brought him in from the pasture and he said the horse just wasn't acting right. And I said, "You know your horse? We're going to come talk about it." So I came and looked at the foot, especially based on his description of where it was. He was not able to send me a picture with his phone, but normally I will tell you this is why phones have cameras. It's to send your veterinarian pictures of things your horse has done. So I came out and looked at it. That wound was in that horse's pastern joint. We discussed his options and he elected to immediately send the horse to a referral facility. So within an hour and a half of him bringing his horse in for breakfast that morning, we had him at a surgical facility and on a surgery table so that that wound could get flushed, the joint could get flushed. Typically when we look in typically when we look in joints, we have white counts of 100, maybe even 50, like really low white blood cell counts. There shouldn't be many in there. This horse's white cell count was 100,000, which is equivalent to pus. Now, we don't know when this horse did this injury overnight, but the injury, when I saw it, was super clean. And I'm going to tell you, it was tiny, tiny, tiny. That ended up being a career-ending injury for that horse, but it was not a life-ending one. And if that owner had waited until his horse was showing him true lameness symptoms, which would probably have been 2 or 3 days later, it would have been life-ending. So if your horse injures itself below the knee or the hock, my advice is always, always, always take a picture of it, take a video of it. I'm great with videos. Send it to your veterinarian and say, is this a place I need to be concerned about? Because there's far more real estate below the knee and the hock that you need to be worried about than that you don't need to be worried about. The other thing I will say about DIY wound care, and I'm sure none of you have ever done this, but the number of random things I have had to clean off of a wound, including, transmission fluid, used motor oil, baking soda, and one of these is labeled as a wound care product, and that is Wonder Dust. And never, ever, 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 ever use any of those 4 things on a wound. Never. I'm not sure why they felt transmission fluid was the right option, but it was a purposefully placed on thing. And I, to this day, do not have an answer as to why. But having some guidelines from your veterinarian on what is safe and acceptable to put on wounds is fantastic. Most of the things we put on them, horses will heal through. But as we know, horses like to make something called proud flesh, which we technically call over exuberant granulation tissue. And wound care is key to that. So managing the infection of the wound and managing what topicals we're putting on it really help keep the wound healing environment as good as it can be and reduces our chances of that over exuberant granulation tissue or proud flesh. Uh, and transmission fluid is definitely not one of those things. So I always say everything you put on a wound, I have to clean off when I come look at it. And I'd like to know that what I'm cleaning off is something that's reasonable. I have a list of things that I typically authorize owners to use. And one of those is silver sulfadiazine ointment. It is probably my favorite thing on the planet. And it is safe for any and all wounds. And then triple antibiotic in a pinch. If you don't have silver sulfadiazine, I don't mind it on most wounds either. And then, like I said, give me a call, send me a picture, let me see what you got. And finally, I feel like I should have a drum roll here. Skipping routine care is my number 5. This is low hanging fruit. And I'm going to talk about this with a sad story. And it is that I had a client. She's a long, long, long time client. She went to Texas and bought a mare that had the breeding she wanted. She brought it home. We worked hard to get her in foal. She was not the easiest thing, and FedEx lost the semen at least once in Memphis because that's what they do. And we were finally able to get her in foal, and we got a beautiful filly. And when that filly was about 2 years old, she called me and said, "She's not right today. I don't know what's going on. She was a little bit not right last night. This morning, she's really not right. She's just not interacting with us very well. Can I bring her over?" And life had gotten in the way for that owner. And again, I totally understand it. Her mom got really sick and passed away. Her dad followed up super quickly. And I absolutely understand that life got away from her. But she had not vaccinated this horse in 8 months when I saw it. 8 months. Now I live in Florida and we have mosquitoes 24/7. It was 28 degrees here last week. Yes, we do get to 28 degrees. It is currently 75 degrees, and I promise you there are mosquitoes out there. We also have encephalitis 365 days a year. So when she brought this horse into us, we very quickly realized that it likely had Eastern equine encephalitis. We don't necessarily have a rapid way to test for that. It takes about 10 days. And she was all right. So we elected to say, let's see what she does over the next few hours. She progressed very rapidly to seizures, and I ended up having to euthanize her. And that was a challenge because euthanizing a horse that is having seizures is probably one of the scariest things I ever do. So, for want of a $50 vaccine, we lost what she had worked this hard to get. And when I look at the outbreak that's going on right now, when we talk about the rhinopneumonitis virus in the barrel horses right now, vaccines, that's a complicated one. Vaccines are not the end all be all answer there, but we can use vaccines to massively reduce viral shedding and reduce the risk to other horses. So routine care is such a big deal. I will also say, being someone who sees horses from the cradle to the grave, literally, routine dental care with sedation, a bright light, and a speculum helps me take a horse from 2 to, I used to say 20, but 30 with reasonable dental mass intact so that those horses can keep eating normal food and doing their very best. And that is one of the biggest things I do for longevity for these horses, I think. The other thing I would say is deworming. This one's going to be a surprise on the Horse Health Essentials section because you've probably been doing it wrong. There you go. It has become much more straightforward and at the same time much more complicated over the last few years, but we can deworm better. And 99.9% of the time on this one, it involves spending less of your money. So routine care is my number 5 for your horse health essentials. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of a decision framework here. You guys have seen the top 5 that I have for costly mistakes. You're thinking, I need to be better at noticing what my horse is doing. So we're going to think about noticing all of the things they're doing, have a guideline for interpreting what they're doing, and then having a decisive action you can take. Like, how great would that be? So we're all going to close our eyes unless we're driving. If you're driving and listening to this, do not close your eyes. I want to be very clear on that. Or pull over and close your eyes. But let's think about, 3 weeks from now, your horse is doing something a little off. You call your veterinarian. It's a quick and easy fix. You made the right call. So 3 months from now, you're at a horse show having a grand old time, winning that class that you always dreamed you couldn't even answer. And 3 years from now, you know that you did all the right things for your horse and you guys are enjoying a wonderful, wonderful relationship. So let's talk about what is in Horse Health Essentials because we've touched on it, but we're going to talk about the rest of it. So it is 8 modules. We talk about vaccines, and I go into the routine vaccines that every horse should need. Plus, we talk a bit about the extra vaccines based on your horse's lifestyle, where you live. There are multitude of factors involved in what vaccines horses should get and how often they should get them. Pro tip here, if your veterinarian gives your vaccines, 2 things happen. One, we are in a veterinary shortage in this country, and if you get routine care through your veterinarian, it is far, far, far more likely that you're going to have a veterinarian available when you have an emergency. The other thing that's going to happen is if anything goes wrong and those vaccines don't work like they should, the company that made those vaccines is going to help you take care of your horse. I am seriously saving you guys money here. We've got one on deworming, as I talked about. There's so much cool stuff about worms and horses. You guys probably don't think that's a normal statement around my house. Those are things we say all the time. But worms and horses, really cool, has changed so much since I was a kid. Like it used to be, we did rotation, but now we don't do rotation. What are we supposed to do? Fecal egg counts. We're going to talk about fecal egg counts, what they are, why you should do them, and how fantastic they are. Because who doesn't like to look at poop under a microscope? We're going to talk about equine fitness, and I am not John Halling. I'm not going to come up with your equine fitness program for you to get from couch to 5K, but I think his version is beginner, novice to preliminary. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the science behind equine fitness and some actual concrete things you can look at to say, I'm doing this fitness program. Is it appropriate for my horse? And is my horse responding the way I want them to? Am I looking at their heart rate and is it doing what I want them to do? And what is the science behind fitness programs? We're going to talk about dental care and all of the things that go on in there. When I put a speculum on and shine that light all the way into the back of the mouth, you realize it goes way far in there. And you definitely need to have sedation, a speculum, and a bright light to do a quality job. We're going to talk about equine nutrition and how forage should be the basis of your horse's diet and what's really important about equine nutrition, and it is not supplements. I know, again, having listened to this, you guys are shocked that it's not supplements. The hoof health one, I know you're not supposed to pick a favorite child. This is my favorite one because this does such a great job showing you guys the things you need to know to have great conversations with your farrier and your veterinarian about your horse's feet. Like it is, I'm so proud of this one. And I can't wait for you guys to all see it. Like I'm super excited about that. Next, we're going to talk about tack and equipment. And again, this is the most amazing bit you've ever seen in your life, and you should go buy it. It is the science behind where bits are in horses' mouths, how bridles fit, what we know about standing martingales, running martingales. Really interesting research on that. Breastplates, saddles, saddle pads, boots. We talk about the science behind tack and equipment to help you guys go out to those Black Friday sales that, again, I don't know about you guys, but I get all those. And my horse definitely gets something every year for Black Friday. I don't get anything. She gets all kinds of stuff. But let's help you look at those Black Friday deals and have the science behind what products you should get and what you shouldn't. And finally, we have turnout and herd dynamics. And what I get for this sometimes is my horse isn't in a herd. They get turned out by themselves. Your horse is always in a herd because they're in a barn of some sort or they're around other horses, nearly always. What can we do to take their lifestyle and what we've done with it and maximize their happiness? Again, there's some great science behind this, and we go into all of that. And I talk about how, as a veterinarian, you can minimize unexpected visits from me by making their world as good as you possibly can. So, again, these are 8 modules. They are short. While you can't listen to them during that 10 to 15-minute walk that every trainer on Ride IQ requests you do before you start, you can get some of it done while you're doing that. They are absolutely based in the real world and real cases that I've seen, and you get a lifetime subscription to it. And you get the quick reference takeaway. So if you stayed to the end, Jessa and Mackenzie are going to get your information for that, and you will get that quick reference triage guide, which is also, like I said, we made it. We designed it to go in the tack room so that it is always near your horse and ready to go. You can put it on the top of a tack trunk. It's easy and portable. You could probably have it on your phone and ready to go at any point in time, because who knows when your horse is going to do the things they shouldn't do. All of this is far, far, far less than one emergency bill from me at $149, and you get a 30-day money back guarantee. I mean, I don't think there's any way you're not gonna like it, but just in case, you've got that money back guarantee, so you know. And again, that $149, way less than an emergency bill from me, and I truly believe that this is going to help you guys avoid emergency bills and keep your horse happier and healthier. So, again, just go do it. And that link for that, I'm pretty sure that Jessa and Mackenzie are going to have it up for you guys, but it is rideiqelevate.com/horse-health. So there you go. Now, let's talk about all the reasons why you don't want to do it. You don't have any, do you? You shouldn't, because this is a no-brainer. This is easy. You can do this. It's it's easy and digestible for you to listen to. You can go back and listen to it again. Heck, I'm usually on the Ride IQ Facebook group. You can ask questions. We will figure it out. We got you covered. So again, if all this did was help you avoid one major health crisis, totally worth it, right? I I I think it is, because I don't want any more extra phone calls at night. And so I would love for everyone to have access to this. And imagine the time you'll save not panic Googling, as well as the anxiety that you're feeling. No panic Googling, your world is a much better place. So, like I said, they may be able to put the link on the screen. If not, it is rideiqelevate.com/horse-health. And there is, again, you guys are going to get, Jessica says she's going to put it in the chat and she's going to follow up with an email. And then there is the quick reference triage guide as well. So with that, we are going to move on to Q&A. So if you guys got questions, let's get them. All right, let's see what we have here. Oh, that's a good one. I have one from Melissa Riggs asking, at what age should I start preventative joint care for a dressage warm blood? Cosequin, Adequan, or something else? You're not going to be surprised that my answer is something else. But this is also a bit of a complicated answer, because the answer is never. I don't ever, I'm not a big believer in joint supplements. They just don't work the way they say they do. You know, they're not going to go out there and say that your baby warm blood, we're going to start them on Cosequin right now and their joints are going to be good forever. The most important thing you can do is set a good fitness base on those young horses. You know, you hear it from all the coaches that you got to take the time. And the younger and the bigger they are, the more I find that we have to spend time working on base level fitness. Good, correct riding and good, correct farrier care does more for these horses than you're ever going to get out of Cosequin, Adequan, or something else. A quick and easy thing that you can do on any age horse that I love is I go buy human balance pads, 2 of them, because it's just easier, and train your horse to stand on them with both hind feet or both front feet. You can swap back and forth between pairs. And this will help them start to build all those little tiny muscles as fitness work with no pounding. You're not doing anything to add concussion to that joint. You're just doing fitness work. My horse is trained that as I'm saddling up on the cross ties, she stands on it for 5 minutes. I now add some other exercises with her, but just 5 minutes of standing on that does amazing, amazing stuff for them. So I would tell you your very best preventative joint care is good base level fitness, which is Adequan considered a supplement? This gets a little bit tricky. Adequan is actually not a supplement. Adequan is considered a drug. There are injectable joint supplements out there, and that is actually illegal. Adequan does the hard work of making sure that they are FDA approved, and that means that in there is the amount of the drug they say is in there. And the other thing that's in there is like they have sterility guarantees. When you see a joint product that says it is an injectable joint supplement, it does not have those. They should be a drug. And that's what Adequan, Legend, and Zycosan have gone through. Any of the other ones out there have not gone through that. So that is a great question, Amy. All right. Emily wants to know, where is the most valuable place to put your money to keep a horse performing at its optimal ability? Turnout. Turnout in fitness. I feel like a little bit of a broken record here, but everybody comes to me and they want to do the lube oil filter rotate the tires. And that's not how it works. I absolutely have those horses that have a chronic condition that we need to manage. And so those horses we are doing joint injections, for example, on a regular basis. But that is a tiny, tiny percentage of the cases that I see. For most of them, we're going over them once or twice a year. And we're saying, do we find anything on this horse right now that is showing us that they're a little bit sticky somewhere? Are they a little bit compensating? What are they doing with their body? And is this something that potentially we need to go in and treat once? But more importantly, where do we need to modify their fitness and movement routine to improve how they're supporting this joint? And turnout is one of the very best things we can do. There's really great research also showing that horses turned out in larger pastures are less likely to injure themselves than horses turned out in smaller pastures. And it's because they have time to turn, and so they aren't doing those short, quick turns. Turnout is also amazing. There is no better option for bone health for horses. So again, we talk about that in that module where we talk about the herd dynamics and turnout. It's more complicated than just, put your horse in a giant field. And I recognize that there's horses who live on Long Island. They can't have a ton of turnout. So how do we incorporate that into their lifestyle? Kate asked that she just got a mare that is a body condition score of 3. Ooh, we have had her teeth floated, but aside from that, what is the best thing I can do to help her gain weight at the appropriate speed? Ooh, I love this question. Uh, so we're going to start with a base of good quality forage. For a body condition score of 3, that is nearly always going to be alfalfa hay for me. Alfalfa gets a bad rap as being bad for horses. It is not. It is nearly a perfect food for them. So I start with ever increasing amounts of alfalfa hay. Based on if she came from a situation where she wasn't getting enough food, we have very great guidelines from the University of California, Davis on how to do this. But if she was eating okay, then I just over about 10 days to 2 weeks, I'm slowly increasing her alfalfa until she's getting 2% of her body weight that I want her to be at. So if she's a 3 and you have her body weight, you're going to add 200 pounds to it because each body condition score represents about 100 pounds. And you're going to figure out 2% of that, and that's what she should be eating in alfalfa. You can add some concentrate to add calories, but also balance out what alfalfa is missing, which is mostly phosphorus. And then on that, you can add some vegetable oil. And I usually reach for canola. It's cheap, it's easy, it comes in gallon jugs. And I start slowly adding a splash, 2 splashes. I take 10 to 14 days to work them up to a cup of oil. Horses have their GI challenges, but one of them is not the ability, is not, anyway, They can eat fat. They do fantastic with fat, and it is so many calories in such a small package, and we don't have to worry about a laminitis risk, a colic risk. We don't have to worry about any of the things. The only thing we'll see is that sometimes those horses will get a little bit of soft manure if we push the oil too fast, but it just means back off a little bit, and she will do all of the right things from there. I would recommend that you get a weight tape, and this can be as simple as measuring around the girth with a tape measure. There is a formula. Everybody get your pens out. Anyway, there's a formula where you measure around the heart girth. You do heart girth times length, which is point of shoulder to the crease on the butt where the muscle is there. So you do heart girth, length divided by 330. And that will also let you get a weight without having, you can just have a measuring tape and it'll get you a weight. And I would look at that and say, like, how are we doing on gaining weight? I generally shoot for gaining about 100 pounds a month. So I break that down. I'm looking for about 25 pounds a week. Wish I could do that. Huh. That'd be awesome. But unfortunately, us as humans don't get to do that. So, all right. Mel wants to know, she has a horse that's currently recovering from a bad bout of asthma. Once she returns to baseline, how should I go about building her cardiovascular health? Ooh, I literally just read a paper about this today because this is what I do for fun. One of the things that I look at is return to normal respiratory rate. There was a cool study that just came out that showed that 15 minutes of light walk trot work is actually a bronchodilator for horses and worked as well as one of the drugs that we use to dilate their bronchioles. So I wouldn't be too worried if she's handling the work of 10 to 15 minutes of walk trot and she's not coughing. That's a big deal, not coughing. Then you can definitely start there. From there, I start looking at one of the easiest things that I do is I say, well, let's go to John Holling's novice fitness program and start adding in some tiny trot sets. We're going to stop at the end of those trot sets and we're going to say, okay, what is our respiratory rate and how fast does it come down? And it should come down for the average horse within about 3 to 4 minutes. If she is taking much longer than that, then it's time to talk with your veterinarian about, do you need to work on modifying her drug protocols or her environment a little bit more. One of the exciting things, this is just a little tiny rabbit hole because I do love a good rabbit hole, but we've recently started using Shockwave on asthma horses, and it is, for every one of them, I've had it improve, and for some of them, it is life changing. We have them off of all drugs. So, again, looking at that drop in respiratory rate after trot sets, when you're feeling pretty good, you got 3 2-minute trot sets doing pretty good, add some canter. And again, I add it slowly. So I would add a minute of canter, stop and see how you're doing. Do you have a drop in that respiratory rate within 3 to 4 or 5 minutes back to normal baseline? And this is where knowing your horse is normal again is really great. So standing her in the cross ties and spending some time figuring out, okay, here we go. This is a very normal, we're doing nothing. This is what her respiratory rate is. You may have to hop off. You may have to have some help from other people around to get the respiratory rate. So most of the time I can figure it out from the saddle, but not always. And if that's the case, it's one of those where I do my trot set, I stop, I hop off real quick, start counting respiratory rate and see what we got. Krista and Laura ask one of my favorite questions. Do you scope for ulcers or just treat them? I've heard from a vet, if you think they're ulcery, save the money and just treat them. More and more and more. If I don't know the horse, I'm always going to say scope them. But the more we find out about ulcers, if you want to go down an ulcer rabbit hole, Google Dr. Ben Sykes, Sykes, and you will learn so much about ulcers. But they are so complicated. First off, we have two different parts of the GI of the stomach. We have the squamous and the glandular. Squamous ulcers, if I see them, typically I'm like, all right, here's our management plan. We're going to treat them this time. And then we're going to put in place a series of things and we're probably going to be fine here. Those horses, I will say, if we are getting some behavioral changes in that, 6 to 8 month time frame and we can monitor it, we may do spot treatments with them. But for the most part, we're going to work on your management program around exercise to minimize the presence of ulcers. The problem is that Some of those horses have glandular ulcers, and we need to know that because we need to know the behavior they're showing us when they have glandular ulcers, because they will almost be impossible to fully get rid of. And so those horses we do treat chronically throughout their lifetime. We think that those horses have something about them that makes them susceptible. Here's the here's what the research shows as well. If you are a warm blood owned by an amateur who is ridden 3 to 4 times a week, but less than 6, then you are far, far more likely to have glandular ulcers. We don't know why, but that's the profile of a glandular ulcer horse. If you are an Olympic level athlete, dressage, show jumping, whatever it is, the more elite an athlete you are, the more likely it is that your ulcers are squamous. And that has to do with the stresses we put on those horses and acid splash. And that we can manage. Like acid splash is actually fairly easy to manage. We feed some hay right before you ride, boom, acid splash managed. Glandular horses are much, much, much harder to manage. And so we need to know that that's in fact what this horse has. But the the plot twist is that I will tell you 80% of the horses that come into my practice that I scope for ulcers do not have ulcers. And so again, we would be spending a lot of time because GastroGuard ain't cheap, that's for darn sure. A lot of money and a lot of effort trying to treat these horses for something that they don't have. And so instead, we then go back to those horses and we say, what's truly going on with you? And can we figure out why you're showing us this behavior? 9 times out of 10, it's that we actually have a lameness somewhere that we need to look at. So we didn't need to scope those horses. We needed to do a lameness exam. Oh, they're going to wrap up Q&A. I hope that you guys enjoyed this so much. I'm so excited about the Horse Health Essentials program. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. And you're going to check your email for the quick reference triage guide and the link to sign up.